Where you at, 106? Like when I fell on live TV, it took me years to be able to watch that because everybody makes such a big deal about it. And I was like, let me rest when I'm over it.
Yeah.
Okay, it took me a while to get over it.
Why do you think it took you a while?
Because people acted like I was the only human on the planet
The falls.
to fall.
Also, when Jennifer Lawrence falls on the red carpet, she's more relatable now.
Again, I can laugh at it now. You know, I'm reminded of it probably. It used to be every week that somebody would like do a meme or something.
Oh, come on.
Everybody knows the image. 3 women standing side by side, perfectly dressed, perfectly in sync, smiling like nothing could ever break them. Destiny's Child looked untouchable for years. The music was iconic, the performances were legendary, and the chemistry on stage made fans believe these women were sisters for life. But behind the lights, behind the awards, and behind all those carefully rehearsed interviews, there was always one person fans treated differently, and that person was Michelle Williams. For years, people joked about Michelle online. They turned her into memes. They blamed her for performances going wrong. They acted like she was just the extra member standing next to Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland. But what if there was more to the story? What if Michelle wasn't just overlooked by fans, but quietly pushed into the background from the very beginning?
You know, when I got into Destiny's Child, it was a moving train. So I was learning as I was going, right? I didn't have a lot of the media training and the development that Beyoncé and Kelly had. I came in that group a team player. I came in that group, what do y'all need me to do? Because I knew of these girls who had a dream and an aspect of that didn't work out. How can I come in and help us win? So I always feel like regardless, throughout the years, regardless of what has been written about me, whatever is said about me, I knew my mission and we had an agreement. We're here to win.
Lately, Michelle has been opening up more than ever about the emotional pain she experienced during her years in Destiny's Child. And while she's never directly attacked Beyoncé or Kelly, a lot of fans are starting to connect the dots. Because the more Michelle talks, the clearer it becomes that she spent years fighting to feel seen in a group where the spotlight was never equally shared. And honestly, the deeper you look into it, the sadder the story gets. Before Michelle Williams was part of one of the biggest girl groups in history, she was just a church girl with a dream. She grew up singing gospel music, surrounded by faith, discipline, and hard work. Music wasn't something she casually picked up. It was part of her identity. Long before stadium tours and red carpets, Michelle was singing in church choirs and learning how to move people emotionally with her voice. But unlike Beyoncé and Kelly, Michelle didn't grow up inside the Destiny's Child machine. She wasn't molded from childhood for pop stardom. Beyoncé and Kelly, everybody knows the image. 3 women standing side by side, perfectly dressed, perfectly in sync, smiling like nothing could ever break them. Destiny's Child looked untouchable for years. The music was iconic, the performances were legendary, and the chemistry on stage made fans believe these women were sisters for life. But behind the lights, behind the awards, and behind all those carefully rehearsed interviews, there was always one person fans treated differently, and that person was Michelle Williams. For years, people joked about Michelle online. They turned her into memes. They blamed her for performances going wrong. They acted like she was just the extra member standing next to Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland. But what if there was more to the story? What if Michelle wasn't just overlooked by fans, but quietly pushed into the background from the very beginning? Lately, Michelle has been opening up more than ever about the emotional pain she experienced during her years in Destiny's Child. And while she's never directly attacked Beyoncé or Kelly, a lot of fans are starting to connect the dots. Because the more Michelle talks, the clearer it becomes that she spent years fighting to feel feel seen in a group where the spotlight was never equally shared. And honestly, the deeper you look into it, the sadder the story gets.
Destiny's Child stan, but you will not talk bad about Michelle and say that they can have a tour without her. You cannot have a Destiny's Child tour without Michelle. Can you do it without LaToya or Latavia? Yeah, like absolutely. But Michelle, there's absolutely no way that can happen. And Michelle Williams has never met a bridge that she can't cross, okay? That girl was the bridge maker and creator for that. Like there are so many songs that she sung the bridge on that brought it home.
Before Michelle Williams was part of one of the biggest girl groups in history, she was just a church girl with a dream. She grew up singing gospel music, surrounded by faith, discipline, and hard work. Music wasn't something she casually picked up. It was part of her identity. Long before stadium tours and red carpets, Michelle was singing in church choirs and learning how to move people emotionally with her voice. But unlike Beyoncé and Kelly, Michelle didn't grow up inside the Destiny's Child machine. She wasn't molded from childhood for pop stardom. Beyoncé and Kelly had years of training together. They had history. They had chemistry that came from growing up side by side. Michelle entered that world much later, and honestly, she walked into chaos. At the time, Destiny's Child was already dealing with major drama. Fans were furious after original members LaToya Luckett and Latavia Robertson left the group amid management disputes involving Matthew Knowles. The group's image was already under pressure. People were picking sides, emotions were high, and then suddenly Michelle appeared. Imagine stepping into that situation. One day you're singing backup vocals and trying to build your own path. The next day you're standing beside Beyoncé Knowles in one of the most famous groups on earth, while millions of angry fans compare you to women they already loved. That pressure would crush most people. But Michelle tried. She learned choreography at lightning speed, she memorized harmonies, she performed in front of huge crowds while still trying to prove she deserved to be there. And even though she worked just as hard as everyone else, fans treated her like an outsider almost immediately. The internet especially became brutal toward her. People criticized her dancing, they mocked her expressions, they said she didn't belong. Every tiny mistake Michelle made became a viral joke, while Beyoncé and Kelly were praised nonstop. And over time, something painful started happening. Michelle slowly became known as the other one in Destiny's Child, instead of being recognized as a talented artist in her own right.
Transform myself. It was hard wearing the different types of clothes, and I showed a little bit of cleavage.
She was fine. It took her a while, but she's got it now.
But here's the twist. Michelle has hinted more than once that the imbalance didn't just come from fans. According to her, there were moments behind the scenes where she felt invisible too. That's where the story starts getting uncomfortable. Michelle has spoken openly over the years about struggling with depression during the peak of Destiny's Child's fame, and one of the saddest parts of her story is how dismissed she says she felt when she tried to talk about it. Think about that for a second.
Here's a woman performing for sold-out arenas, smiling for cameras, living what looked like a dream life, while privately falling apart emotionally. And instead of receiving deep support, she felt like people around her couldn't understand why she was hurting at all. Because from the outside looking in, what did Michelle have to complain about? She was rich, famous, successful, traveling the world. But emotional pain doesn't care about fame.
Opened up about your insecurities about your singing voice. You even stated that you knew you weren't the vocal favorite of Destiny's Child. Is that something what made you second guess?
You know what? It's not that I was second guessing. I'm just aware. You know, some people are like, oh my gosh, it's stuck. They said it stuck with her. No, it didn't stick with me. You know, just sometimes you're aware that you're not everybody's favorite.
Michelle later explained that she often felt isolated and unimportant within the group dynamic. And honestly, fans noticed it too. Watch old interviews carefully, and people constantly point out how Michelle seemed quieter, more reserved, almost like she was trying not to take up too much space.
Meanwhile, Beyoncé was clearly being positioned as the superstar. Now, let's be honest here. Beyoncé is incredibly talented. Nobody can deny that. Her work ethic is legendary, and she earned her success. But many fans believe Destiny's Child eventually stopped feeling like a group and started feeling more like Beyoncé and the others. And unfortunately for Michelle, she became the easiest person to overlook. There were performances where Michelle barely got lines, interviews where her comments were brushed past quickly, moments where fans screamed loudest for Beyoncé while Michelle stood there smiling politely in the background. Little by little, the imbalance became impossible to ignore. What nobody expected was that Michelle would carry those feelings with her for years. Even after Destiny's Child went on hiatus, Michelle still struggled with public perception. Beyoncé exploded into global superstardom. Kelly Rowland built a successful solo career with hits and international recognition. But Michelle's journey looked very different. She returned to her gospel roots and focused on music that felt authentic to her spirit. And honestly, that move said a lot about who Michelle really is. While the industry chased trends, Michelle leaned into healing, faith, and purpose. But instead of celebrating her individuality, people often treated her career like an afterthought compared to Beyoncé and Kelly's success. And that comparison never stopped. Every time Michelle appeared online, the jokes returned. Social media users mocked her vocals, her dancing, even her facial expressions. Some people acted like bullying Michelle had become part of internet culture. And the worst part, she usually handled it with grace. That's something people don't talk about enough. Michelle could have become bitter. She could have lashed out publicly. She could have exposed private group drama years ago. But instead, she stayed classy, over and over again.
Our manager at the time as well, hey, I think I'm dealing with some depression. And he wanted me to see the brighter side of things. No, y'all are about to go on tour. Y'all got Barbie dolls. What are you talking about? Y'all just signed a crazy big deal with Columbia. I could see myself in a pit trying to get out. Just feeling so heavy that when I would make one step, the weight would just pull me back.
Still, fans began noticing subtle comments and interviews, small moments where Michelle hinted at deeper emotional wounds. She spoke about feeling overlooked. She spoke about not always feeling valued. And suddenly, people started asking difficult questions. Did Beyoncé and Kelly unknowingly benefit from Michelle being kept in the background? Because here's the reality nobody wants to admit. In groups like Destiny's Child, there's often an unspoken hierarchy. One member becomes the star, another becomes the fan favorite, and somebody else quietly carries the emotional weight of being underestimated. Michelle became that person. And once fans recognized that pattern, they started rewatching old clips differently. People noticed how often Michelle was interrupted, how rarely conversations centered around her, how interviews focused heavily on Beyoncé's future, while Michelle's contributions were barely discussed. It created this feeling that Michelle was present, but never fully included in the same spotlight. Now, to be fair, Michelle has never outright said Beyoncé and Kelly intentionally tried to hurt her. That's important to remember. In fact, Michelle has often spoken lovingly about both women. Their friendship clearly runs deep in many ways. But relationships can be complicated. Sometimes people can care about you and still unintentionally contribute to your pain. And honestly, fame makes those dynamics even harder. Imagine standing next to Beyoncé at the height of her rise. The world was obsessed with her. Every move she made became headline news. Cameras naturally gravitated toward her. Executives invested heavily in her image. Fans worshipped her. In that environment, Michelle probably felt pressure to shrink herself even more. Because when one person's light becomes that powerful, everyone around them risks disappearing into the shadows. That's why Michelle's recent honesty has touched so many people. A lot of viewers see themselves in her story: the overlooked friend, the sibling who gets less attention, the employee who works hard but never gets recognition. Michelle represents people who keep showing up even when they feel invisible, and the emotional cost of that kind of life is enormous. Michelle has admitted that depression followed her for years. There were moments when she felt emotionally exhausted from constantly trying to prove her worth. Imagine carrying the pressure of global criticism while also battling private mental health struggles. That's heartbreaking. But here's what makes Michelle's story powerful instead of tragic. She survived it. Despite years of jokes, disrespect, and comparisons, Michelle never stopped moving forward. She continued making music, she continued speaking openly about mental health, she continued building a life outside the image people forced onto her. And slowly, public opinions started changing. People began realizing Michelle was never untalented. She was never weak. If anything, she may have been the strongest member emotionally, because while Beyoncé and Kelly received constant validation, Michelle had to create confidence for herself in an environment where she rarely felt celebrated. That takes incredible strength.
Fans also started giving Michelle credit for the emotional texture she brought to Destiny's Child. Her harmonies mattered. Her gospel influence mattered. Her presence balanced the group in ways people didn't appreciate at the time. And once people looked past the old jokes, they started hearing Michelle differently. Suddenly, the woman they mocked for years sounded soulful, warm, and deeply human. And honestly, there's something poetic about that. Because Michelle spent years trying to be heard in a world determined not to listen, now people are finally paying attention. The emotional impact of all this goes far beyond music. Michelle's story changed how many fans view fame itself. People assume success protects celebrities from pain, but Michelle's experience proves the opposite sometimes happens. You can stand on the biggest stage in the world and still feel lonely. You can smile in interviews while privately questioning your worth. That realization hit a lot of people hard. Her openness about depression especially resonated with fans who struggle silently themselves. Michelle helped normalize conversations about mental health in Black communities where emotional struggles are often misunderstood or minimized. By speaking honestly, she gave other people permission to admit they were hurting too. And there's another layer to this story that makes it emotional. Michelle stayed loyal. Even after everything, she still supported Beyoncé and Kelly publicly. She reunited with Destiny's Child multiple times. She celebrated their wins. She showed up with grace again and again. That says a lot about her character. Because some people would have walked away angry forever. Instead, Michelle chose healing. But healing doesn't erase scars. You can still hear the sadness in some of her interviews. You can still sense the exhaustion behind certain smiles. Years of being underestimated leaves marks on people. And while Michelle has clearly grown stronger, fans now understand that strength came from surviving painful experiences most people never saw. That's why so many viewers are revisiting Michelle's legacy with fresh eyes, not as the forgotten member, not as the internet punchline, but as a woman who endured enormous emotional pressure while trying to keep her dignity intact. And honestly, that deserves respect.
At the end of the day, Michelle Williams' story isn't really about jealousy or revenge. It's about what happens when somebody spends years standing beside greatness while struggling to believe they matter too. That's the real heartbreak here. Because Michelle wasn't lacking talent, she wasn't lacking dedication, she wasn't lazy or undeserving. She simply entered a machine where the spotlight had already chosen its favorite. And once the world decided Beyoncé was the main character, Michelle became trapped in a role she never asked for. But maybe that's finally changing. These days, more fans are defending Michelle than mocking her. People are revisiting old performances and realizing she carried some of Destiny's Child's most emotional vocal moments. They're acknowledging the resilience it took for her to survive public criticism year after year without completely falling apart. And maybe that's the biggest twist of all. The woman people once ignored may actually have the most relatable story in the entire group. Because not everybody knows what it feels like to be Beyoncé, but a whole lot of people know what it feels like to be overlooked. Michelle became the symbol of that quiet pain, the person standing in the background hoping somebody notices she's hurting too. And now, after all these years, people finally are. So the question isn't whether Michelle deserved her place in Destiny's Child. She absolutely did. The real question is whether the world ever gave her a fair chance to shine there in the first place. And honestly, a lot of people are starting to believe the answer is no. So what do y'all think? Was Michelle unfairly pushed into the shadows while Beyoncé and Kelly took center stage? Or do you think fans simply underestimated her from the beginning? Drop your thoughts in the comments, but keep it respectful. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the stories behind the fame. Because trust me, there's always more happening behind the spotlight than people realize.